Good morning everybody and welcome back to another tutorial. So for today's tutorial, it was requested in my Discord server some time back to make a tutorial on how to make clothing. Now that the Avatar series is complete and I have been able to go back and update most of my older tutorials, I'm going to be able to start moving on to the tutorials that have been requested. And try to get some new content out there for you guys. So as always, if there's a specific tutorial that you would like to see or that you want to know how something is done, please do let me know in the comments down below or in my Discord server in the YouTube tutorials request channel, and I'll do my best to make the channel or the tutorials for you guys. So today's tutorial, I normally try to keep my YouTube videos around 30, maybe 45 minutes. I'm not entirely sure how long this one's going to be, so if you need to fast forward, go ahead. There's not really a way, in my opinion, to make a quick version of this, so it might run a little long today simply because I want to be able to show you guys the full process, because I feel like with making clothing, there's certain things that are kind of done like a little bit differently. Like the process is maybe all around the same, but once you get to like a specific spot, there's just little tips and tricks that I'd like to share with you guys. A little disclaimer before we get too started. I am still very, very new to making clothing. I've only released one full piece of clothing on my store at the time of making this tutorial. I've made a few other pieces just for practice on the side that I haven't released yet. So this isn't like I make clothing all the time. I'm not the best at like making folds and things like that, and this is not going to cover texturing in Substance Painter, as I'm still super duper new to that, so I'm not very comfortable with making a tutorial on that quite yet, but that might change in the future as I am trying really hard to learn Substance Painter. So as you know, per the rest of my videos, this is just how I make clothing. There may be more optimized ways per se, or there may be faster ways. This is how I personally do it. This is how I've seen a lot of other VRCHAT creators do it. So just kind of wanted to share it with you guys in hopes that maybe it helps be able to teach the people that follow this channel something new. So today we're going to be making probably just like a cute little crop top or something. And yeah, I'll do my best to cover all the basics pretty much from start to finish, so I do apologize if this is a longer video. If you need to fast forward to a specific spot, of course, go ahead. But I'm going to cover as much as I can. And I think with that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first things first, of course, go ahead and input your base that you're going to want to be sculpting your clothing to. I personally use Zenpia's Fit Base pretty much for everything. There are tons of other bases out there. The process is the same no matter what base you use, but do make sure that you're putting in the base that you want it to be sculpted to. And if you want to make a piece of clothing for like multiple bases, I would suggest starting with one that you're most comfortable with, making the clothing for that, and then you can always throw it onto the other base and just sculpt from there, like actually using the sculpting brushes instead of remaking it each time. So I'm using Zenpia's base. Before I forget, let me go ahead, just to be safe, and toss this on. Right now I'm starting with my edited version where I've cropped it. We'll probably switch over to the full body version at some point just so we can have more of the arms, but I didn't want to start with that because obviously there's no clothing on that and I don't want YouTube to yell at me. So go ahead and of course get your base in. And to get started on making clothing, how I primarily see it be done is with planes. It's not for somebody like me that started learning scratch assets with like hair and ears. I got very used to curves and how easy it was to work with those. So it took me a while to get used to working with planes. It's definitely, in my opinion, for me at least, a learning curve. And I searched everywhere for like, is there a better way to make clothing that's not with planes? And yes and no. Like if you're really, really advanced with like 3D creation, you can probably sculpt clothes like with the sculpting brushes, or in like programs like Marvelous Designer and stuff. I'm sure there's more ways to do it, but in Blender this seems to be the most efficient way. So yeah, I go ahead and take my plane. Oh, I forgot to turn on my screencast keys, I apologize. So I go ahead and take my plane. I, of course, obviously make it smaller. I like to stick it out just a little bit away from the chest so that it's not right up against it, because that's something that we can adjust later. You don't really want it touching, just because it's going to be subdivided later, so that it's not just like one flat, right? So that it moves a little bit better with the body. So I normally start with it a little bit ways away, just so that whenever it does come time to actually fit it, we can just sculpt it from there once we get it a little bit higher poly. You don't want it too far out either. Just a good, spot that's comfortable for you. Go ahead and throw on your mirror modifier, mirror on the base. So I go ahead and I turn on clipping. And what that does is I'll highlight, and I normally keep on my x-ray up here so that you can always ensure you're grabbing both vertices. And clipping, right, does this. So if we drag it to the middle, it's going to make sure that those points are joined. So now there's not 4 points. Once the mirror modifier is applied, there would be vertices on this side, right? So now there's not 4. It would actually join those into 2. That's going to save you a lot of headache later. I apologize. I have the hiccups. So with stuff like, just kind of keep in mind your design. Obviously, once you let go, you won't be able to move it. Keep in mind your design. So if you want something like that has like a cutout spot here in like the middle of the chest or something, you'll want to turn off clipping so that you can move that and adjust to have that hole there. It's better to have the holes while you're making the design instead of after trying to go back and cut them out. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'll see about making like a little heart cutout or something just to kind of show you guys. I personally like to have more than just one plane. It just kind of helps with like moving things. You want to try to keep them, as not symmetrical, but like as much as the same size as possible, but it's not catastrophic if they're off a little bit. And to snap it, I hold control, and that helps with the snapping. So just kind of, gonna start building it across now. Don't worry too much about like the sides and conforming it to the body quite yet. That's something that we kind of do as we go along. I will say I saw another video from another creator. I can't remember who it was, but they used, where is it? I think it was surface deform. Oh, shrink wrap. They use shrink wrap. And that, well, I'll show you guys. That, once we get more polys going, is going to help conform. Well, it's kind of hard to show you. Right? Anyway, the point is, you can play with this. I don't know, obviously, a whole lot about it. I think it's, yeah, there you go. Set it to the body. So as you can see, the planes are technically out here, but now they're shrink wrapping to the body, right? And you can do this offset to kind of adjust. So now there's a little fold where the chest goes in. So that's something that you can definitely play with the offset and the target snap mode. Wrap method is nearest surface point. You can change that to nearest vertex. So that's something you can play with if you want to mess with clothing. I personally don't yet because I've had a really hard time with it whenever I go to subdivide and start sculpting it. But I have seen certain creators use that if you want something more skin tight. If you want something more loose, you don't really want that. But if you want it skin tight, like a bodysuit or something, I would suggest playing with the shrink wrap modifier. Today in my tutorial, I'm not going to be using it. I did just want to kind of let you guys know, just in case it's something you wanted to explore. I don't feel comfortable obviously teaching on it since I don't use it a lot, but just something I thought would interest you guys in case you wanted to kind of play with that. So yeah, for starters, I kind of just start literally just building it, and I don't want to drag this all the way down, right? Because then there's no vertices there for me to play with. So we're gonna do a little bit of a crop top, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it there. That's a little too tall, and yeah, just kind of start building it. For this tutorial, it might be a little quiet at points just because, like I said, there's a lot of rinse and repeat in these steps, but as we get to certain parts like the arms and the cutout I'm gonna do here in a second, I feel like there are extra steps. And I would like to be able to show you guys all in that video, so I apologize if some of it's a little repetitive at the start. So right here is where I do want to build my cutout, and as you can see, you don't have to hold control, and you can, you know, make it wider, tighter, like if you wanted to do like a little, just for example, something like this that kind of comes down from the neck and wraps around the chest, doesn't have sleeves. You can do stuff like that. Like you can move these vertices, right, so you can adjust them. And I do keep on proportional editing so that if I scroll it out, I can play with it. So, but for now, I'm just going to leave it like this. So I am going to do the heart shape cutout. So let me think. And once I subdivide, this might get a little funky, but that's okay for now. Heart shape cutout might not have been the best idea. You know what? I'm gonna leave it super duper rough for now. I'm gonna go with something like that. Do I want? I don't think I do. Anyway, it's one of those, like I said, like kind of have to play with the vertices later, like as we go. But see, I don't like it. Because there used to be 3. I kind of want to keep that going. Let me think. I haven't made a cutout yet, obviously, so. I think. Might just have to leave with it. Deal with it for now and come back to it later. Because then I could take these 2, and now we have 3 again. Let's actually do. And make it kind of like a little V-neck. I know this looks like horrible right now. Trust the process. That's what I tell a lot of the people that like get commissions from me and stuff. When I send them updates, I'm like, just trust me. I promise. So I'm gonna kind of make like maybe like cute little short sleeves, and then obviously the crop top with a little heart in the middle, which will get better as we subdivide. So now, and different creators do it different ways. It's completely up to you. Some of them will prefer to kind of do this as they go, like maybe from the side view. I personally get it all down first and then go from here. I'm so sorry, my hiccups are so bad today. So it's you know, again, it's your preference on what you want. I just prefer to do it this way, just because I, you know, like I said, I like to have like the shape kind of already done so that I kind of know what I'm working with, and then from here I can, you know, do exactly what I'm doing here and just adjust accordingly. So yeah, a little V-neck. Take these are going to be the shoulders, and I'm just extruding with E all the way back. And if it's like clipping and stuff, I wouldn't say really worry about it too much right now. You can adjust it, but like, right, I'm not going to sit here and make sure that it fits perfectly to her shoulders or something, because that's something that we're going to do later. So kind of got like the shoulders going. And we can always sculpt after, which is something I tend to do. I'm going to take this. I'll do the sleeves first. So let's go ahead and change from to the full body so that we have... I'm going to go ahead and do the sleeves first, and then I'm going to come back and wrap this around. Hello, Kira. I apologize if you hear meowing in the background. That is my cat. I'll just leave that for now. Okay, so for the sleeves, let me grab... I prefer to come up here to the Z, and we'll handle the back here in a minute. It doesn't really matter what order you go in, whatever order you're most comfortable with. I grab the vertices that are on top of the arm and start extruding. Yeah, that's fine. And then it's kind of like wonky with the sleeves. I grab the vertices on the side. I'm going to leave that one for now. We'll join here in a second. And I do it kind of like at whatever angle is best and just start extruding. Something like that. I'm going to grab this vertice. And it would be easier to see the vertices if I didn't have the base as a solid black color. But I do that because I don't like to get in trouble with YouTube. So do the same thing on here. So I went 1, 2, 3, and then the bottom. Right? So, which again doesn't really matter. 1, 2, 3, and then the bottom. But the reason why I try to keep it symmetrical is for this reason right here. So I can take these. There's a few options you can do. You can either, select the two and hit M and merge at center, so that this bottom part is only 2 planes, which matches the top, which is going to help a little bit with like just things being more symmetrical. Or if you wanted to, if you accidentally don't have things symmetrical, or you weren't necessarily paying attention to like what vertice count or plane count you have, it's totally fine. You as long as you select an even number of vertices that's more than 2, so like 4, like this, you can do F to fill, and that creates a new plane, as you can see. So it kind of, let me turn off XRC. Hello? There you go. So it fills it in, which that's helpful for things like the back, or for connecting the sleeves to the front of the shirt. For me personally, for this, I'm going to merge, because I don't really feel like I need that extra, that extra plane there on the bottom. And then, as you can see, like, right, it's clipping pretty bad into the body. For something like that obvious, I'd go ahead and move that out, because we're going to need that. If it's just like minor clipping like that, like, you don't need to worry about that, because that's something that we'll fix as we go afterwards, after we kind of get it all out and about. So you could always alt click, and that's going to highlight the whole circle, and you can make it tighter if you wanted to. Like, you could shrink that in. I like my sleeves to be more loose. I don't really do skin tight clothing for me personally. So I'm going to leave it like that. So then right here for the back, I'm going to select those 2 vertices and merge. So now it's starting to connect to the back, right? So we'll go ahead and do the back. So I'm going to, not that one, select these guys. Go E again. And I do still have clipping on, so if I was to drag these in, it's going to, right, but I don't want that quite yet. And see, so like here, I can take all of these if I wanted to and extrude, and it'll join them that way. I could also take it and just drag it over. It's whatever on the front. I had 2 planes, so I think that's kind of what I'm going to stick with this time. Make that a little bit. And you can always turn off X-ray if it's like too much for you. I know it was a bit overwhelming for me sometimes seeing those extra ones back there. So like if you wanted to right here, you could to merge, or you could select, which, I mean, you can do fill with 3. So I'm going to select this one, this one, this one, and F. And it'll fill in triangles for you. So like you can do that. It's with creating things, it's best to try to not have triangles, to try to keep things like 4-sided. But it's not going to be like life or death if you have a triangle in clothing, because we are going to subdivide it later so that it's not so low poly. And you can make, once you get more into like advanced texturing and stuff, you can make like a super duper crazy high poly one and then bake onto a low poly one, which I'm not the most familiar about, but if you want to look that up, you're welcome to do that. So it's not life or death. It does help with optimization, especially when it comes to texturing, to not have the triangles, because whenever you go to texture, you have to add seams. Kind of like if you think about like sewing like a real life piece of clothing, you have to mark in Blender basically where the seams of the clothing would merge, and that's going to help with the UV mapping, which is getting pretty advanced. This video is just about how to make the clothing. But yeah, triangles are not life or death. You know, especially when it comes to making clothing, it's not going to kill it. It's, I think, more optimized technically in the end to have it 4-sided, but it's something you can always go back later after you subdivide and everything, and you can remove the triangles and remove the extra edges and stuff like that. So it's not gonna be detrimental. So I just control clicked that, and I'm just gonna extrude this out and then merge these guys. So the back now matches the front, and then we'll do the sides, and then we'll go from there. I'll deal with that in a minute. So for the sides, you can either grab like the sleeve and like extrude down and go from there. I personally grab one of the front or back and go from there. That's just my own personal preference. It's, you know, again, one of those, it's up to you. I don't really necessarily snap to a side like this. I kind of swivel my camera personally and just kind of extrude this way. And by the way, if you ever have something like curved funny, you can still use R to rotate. Or you can just, you know, drag things to make it more straight. So just because the vertices are like extruding a certain way doesn't mean they have to stay that way. Again, it's not the most detrimental thing ever, if they are, because we're going to end up sculpting and fitting it and doing everything that we want to do after we kind of get the generalized shape going. So for here, I'm just going to kind of start shaping it a little bit. Since the top ends right here, kind of want it to like, I think, do that. And of course, this is why I try to keep my X-ray on, so that I can make sure I'm grabbing all the vertices. So let me show you guys. If I was to grab just this one, I'm only grabbing this front one. If I keep my X-ray on though, when I highlight it, I'm ensuring that I'm grabbing all 3 of those. Oops, didn't mean to rotate. I'm just going to extrude it down one more so that it's going to be easier. And again, here you can either F to fill, if you select all the vertices. I have to fill and have that like catty corner one, or you can merge. Whoops. And I am sure there is a way to highlight two edges at once and be like, merge all of these. I don't know what the shortcut is. I personally am going to fill. So yeah, if you want to know what the shortcut is, I would just look that up. And it's okay that these are at an angle. Again, it's not gonna really affect anything. I don't know if it's somebody that's more used to this could probably tell you if it's optimization or if it's just me being OCD. I don't know what to tell you. So this one is like a random vertice that doesn't join anywhere. So let me try. How do I want to fix this? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll add a loop cut there. And then merge it center. Ta-da! And it's all still four-sided. Beautiful. Right here, I am going to fill all of these. I prefer to fill, personally, when it comes to like the sleeves and the armpit area, because I feel like that's where some of the worst issues come with like weight painting and stuff, which we are far from that, but I just prefer to fill. I feel like it helps, especially with like sculpting and stuff. So right here, we only have like these 4 vertices versus there's more down here. That's when you can add in another loop cut if you want. It's going to add it all the way across, but then you have those four, so on and so forth if you want to do that. Which I think is what we're going to end up doing. And by the way, a loop cut shortcut is Control-R. I'm just weird, and I don't use it very often. Ta-da! So little points are going to stick out. Little points are going to be funny because it's that low poly, right? And that's okay. That's okay. You can adjust it if you're super picky like me, or you can wait and do it later. Don't matter. Yeah. So super duper duper low poly. Very rough draft. If you want to, you can sit here and start to like sculpt it and adjust it and fit it. I personally wait until after I subdivide, because subdivide makes a difference. So still leaving my mirror modifier on. I'm going to come over here and subdivision surface. Right, it's getting a little bit better. It, as you can see, did change some things. Go ahead and if I can click it, hello, shade smooth. So then that way we can actually see what it's going to look like in the end. And it's still pretty low poly once we apply the subdivision surface. I didn't think that there, I'm sorry. Yeah, so from here, just so you know, it does matter the order that you put in your modifiers. As you can see, subdivision is taking priority right now, so it affected this middle part because we have the mirror modifier on. If you leave it at the bottom, mirror modifier is taking priority, so it's making sure to clip. I'm going to go ahead and apply, and then it's going to affect it, of course, as it does. So it's still not too low poly. We do have some like extra edges and stuff like right here that we don't really need, but that's going to happen since we're doing a cutout, because like those few edges right there aren't needed, but as they come down, it makes the sides nice and even. So I'm personally not going to remove any of those. If you wanted to remove, you could. I'm going to leave them because I don't have a problem with them. I'm going to scoot those in and make sure that these are joined. I was being dumb. I apologize. So now this is where I would say, you know, kind of a bit more of refining and sculpting can come into play. And editing the vertices and stuff to make sure that it fits properly. You can always go higher poly if you want. That is okay too. Especially with like, which right now this is like a really optimized shirt. It's nice and low poly. It's not too bad as far as high poly. Could definitely go lower. I think some of these extra edges and stuff aren't really needed. But it's not too bad for right now. But whenever it comes to like sculpting folds and stuff, which I will end up covering in this video, just so that it's kind of all in one video, I would say that you would want to look more into baking in Substance Painter, which basically is when you take a low poly shirt like this and you take that high poly sculpt and you tell it to bake, which means it's going to kind of like print the shadows. So like right here, if you see over here in this armpit area, there's a shadow there. Now that's going to move like with the lighting or whatever, however you set up your materials, right? But with baking, whenever you tell it to bake the folds, per se, the shadows of that onto this low poly shirt, it's going to stick. It won't necessarily change with the lighting or anything. It's going to pretty much put it on there so that it looks like there's folds within the shirt when there's really not per se per the mesh. Like it's not going to be a wavy mesh. So that's something that I would highly suggest looking into. It's something I'm still learning myself, but that is okay. So I'll cover, you know, like a higher poly and making folds today. I'm just not gonna be able to cover much on texturing because I'm not very comfortable with that myself. So as you can see, right, this is like sticking out more, so do keep that in mind whenever you're trying to do stuff like this, like a cutout, that we'll want to come back and look at it from different angle. And do keep in mind, since we are going to be subdividing again in a little while to make folds, this is probably going to get messed up and we'll probably need to touch it up a little bit, but that's okay. So for right now, it's just for learning. Right, so I prefer that to be a lower point so that it's a little bit more of a defined, but now it's doing weird things. So it's when we'll take these, because it doesn't need to necessarily keep its shape from the side, right? And just kind of bring those lower a little bit. Now you have a cute little tiny cutout heart spot, which I kind of wish was bigger, so I'm going to see if I can make it bigger. Clicking all the wrong buttons. Hello? Go. Something like that. Alright, so now you have a little cutout, little short sleeve crop top. It's pretty square. It's not the most attractive crop top, I guess, but that's because we haven't refined it. So if you were going for like super duper optimized, you could leave it here and start sculpting it with either, you know, like this, like with your editing the vertices, or you can use the sculpt tools. I prefer sculpt tools just because I swear by them. So you could start editing it from here if you wanted. I personally am going to go ahead and move on to the folding portion. So we're going to end up subdividing it again, which that heart's probably going to get messed up now, and work on the folds, and I'm going to go ahead and sculpt it a little bit more to the body at the same time whenever we do that. So subdivide, apply. Now if we look at it, it's a lot more high poly, right? It's not horrible, but it is more high poly, and that's okay. The shirt alone is 4, so 8,000 edges, which is not too bad. Just not too bad at all. About 4,000 vertices. Not too shabby, not too shabby. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix this because it's gonna drive me nuts. All that hard work. But now it's gonna be prettier, right? Because it's got more polys. Cute. All right. Go ahead and fix the little bits where it decided to unmerge. And that's okay. I do kind of want it a little bit more, there we go, V-necky. I'm going to sculpt them. And I've talked about this in past videos, but in case you haven't seen those, something to keep in mind is this fall off here. So right now it's set to sphere. So what that's going to do is if you look close, when I move the cursor, you can kind of see it. There's like a little yellow dot there. That means that is quite literally the vertice that it is trying to grab onto. Alright, so that's how you can keep an eye on. So radius obviously is going to be the, you know, radius, the area that it's going to control, and the strength. So you can play with those settings if you want, but fall off is going to be, so right now, as you can see, it's grabbing like just this one vertice in the front, doing that. Think of fall off as kind of like your X-ray mode, which in sculpting, X-ray mode's not really going to do you very much good. But if we change it to projected, like right now we're in the Y facing direction. So it's going to grab. Hello? Is it not wanting to do it now? Oh, it's probably because I have. Okay, hold on. Do I really want to? I really don't, though. That's a good example. There we go. That's a good example. So with the fall off, as you can see, or if we change it to projected, instead of just grabbing the front part of that sleeve, it grabs the back because it's pretty much treating it like X-ray. It's going to go straight through what you're seeing. So keep that in mind. It is going to be helpful for like if you're trying to adjust like the sleeves or something, you know, and you want it to make sure that the front and back are symmetrical. But then like here up on the front, if you're wanting to change like just the V-neck line, you'll, if it wants to work, there you go, want to make sure that it's on the sphere so that it's grabbing just this front one, and it's doing that. separation, I'm so sorry for my hiccups today. If it's doing that separation, that's because we still have the body on, or the mirror on, and the clipping. And we haven't applied that yet. So keep that in mind when you're sculpting the fall off and the sphere versus projected. I'm going to fix this real quick because I messed it up. So yeah, it's going to, kind of help whenever it comes to sculpting. So I tend to go with projected, and you can play with all the different brushes. There is like cloth brushes and pinch and smooth crease, all that kind of different stuff, which we will use. But for right now, I'm just going to... And grab. All right, that's what grab does. Elastic deform. All right, so you can see it's not near as harsh. So that radius, think of it as like a... If you think of like digital art, think of it as like a blur tool. It kind of blurs out the harshness of where it's going to grab and affect it. So do keep this in mind with the mirror with the clipping. If you want to, you can go ahead and apply it. And then what you can do, click on your shirt, right click, set origin to geometry. Now it's going to center it. And then you can turn on, hold on, sculpt mode. All right, and now it'll mirror without separating. I'll go ahead and do that. It's totally up to you. Sometimes I leave on the mirror modifier. Just depends on what I'm doing. Oh, this is not... Oh, no. Went too far. Sculpt mode. It's here. X. I actually want this projected. There we go. And the sphere with like the different brushes versus projected obviously is going to make like a little bit of a difference. So it's always a good idea to just kind of play around with the different brushes until you can find one that you feel is best suited for you. Something that I do, you'll see me doing it a lot, is I'll drag down and then back to, that's just me kind of seeing like where's the body at, and then okay, I want it to kind of be a little bit close to the body, so that's how low it is. So okay, let me go back a little bit more, if that makes sense. So, like there's the lower back, so okay, let me pull it out just a little bit so that it is closer. And then this is also where the grab tool versus the elastic deform can be really helpful, because you might not really want it to affect that wide area that it is kind of doing right now. So you might want to grab the grab tool instead. But just keep in mind that, the grab tool is going to be a lot harsher, so you'll kind of want to keep an eye on that. Let's do... Right, so like right here, I'm trying to affect the stomach area, but it's affecting this. If I wanted to, I could take this. I don't really suggest staying super close in with the grab tool. I zoom out or just play with the radius. Right, because of stuff like that, so... And I also like kind of click and move with the grab tool personally. That might just be the digital artist in me, but I feel like it helps. So, right, the shirt's a little bit more fitted. It's kind of sort of already started to form some folds. And if you ever have something you don't like, you can always grab the smooth tool and just kind of like literally brush that. What that's doing is it's relaxing the geometry, is how I heard somebody put it, as you can kind of see it doing. It makes it not so rigid, I guess is a good word for it. But do be careful with the smooth tool. It's one of my favorite tools, but if you smooth too much, it's gonna do stuff like that, so just kind of keep that in mind. But I do find it very helpful. I wouldn't suggest using it all the time to like smooth down to like try to get that closer to the chest or something, because it did away with the V-neck look. So just kind of keep that in mind. So it's a little bit more fitted. I actually quite like it. A few different things. There's all kinds of things. I wouldn't even say a few that you can do for like making folds and stuff. You can do this pinch thing, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you can see it. Let me come in here. All right, kind of does stuff like that. And keep in mind your wireframe and geometry. This is why when it comes to because those vertices aren't going to be joining. Even if you do all that, they're still not going to join because it's just sculpting it. It's not editing it. So that's why when it comes to folds, a lot of people suggest you make a high poly version and then a low poly version. Put in everything that you want on the high poly and then bake it onto the low poly. So that you're not really messing up your wireframe and your geometry. But just to kind of show some examples, like there's like a crease. And you don't have to. I might afterwards with this, but I'm not entirely sure. So like with the crease, you can kind of like do that to like, you know, add in some little folds here. And you can always take off the mirror modifier because, the symmetry tool. Because with folds, it's not, you know, always going to be the most, they're not always symmetrical. So you can do stuff like that, and you can always pull it back out to make it a little bit more fitted. You do like the scrape. You could do, let's play with the cloth one a little bit. I haven't really messed with it too much. Kind of hard to see, but it did kind of fit the underside a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but yeah, you can just kind of play with the different things here. And then something else you can do is you can do like layers. That is going to kind of like add onto in a weird way is I guess a way to put it. You could do like the clay strips. You could do draw sharp. That is another really cool one. That's more for like super like I do that on high poly. I'll come in with like something sharp and make it, you know, do something like that, and then but with it being high poly, it wouldn't be so bad on the clipping, and then kind of edit from there. And that's how you can draw like really, really specific like folds and creases and stuff. But this is supposed to be kind of like a loose crop top, so I'm not going to go too crazy with it. I'm just going to kind of fit this a little bit better because I don't quite like how wavy the bottom ended up getting. See, yeah. This right here is like a really good example where we did that crease on the back for that back line. If we were to bake that onto a lower poly version, then like the back would still be flat, but it would still show. I'm going to kind of smooth it out so it's not quite so harsh. Thank you. I'm sorry, my cat's being noisy. Yeah, just kind of a cute little crop top. Okay. Hi, I'm recording. I am so sorry, guys. Kitty meows are great, but she is very talkative today, apparently. And she's like right up next to my chair, so I'm sorry if she is disturbing the learning process. Oh, I wanted to see about doing something. There we go. And the smaller you get, and especially with like higher poly, you could go through and put in like detailed like creases and stuff. So can't say it enough. I highly recommend looking into it. Yeah, just something kind of simple. Boobs kind of look a little funny now. Just a cute, simple little top, and then you're all done. And then you could like come in here and you could be like, you know what, let's throw on blue. Let's make this blue. Not near so metallic. Maybe metallic. Specular roughness. Yeah, and you can just kind of sit here and play with it to figure out like Kira. Sorry. But yeah, you can kind of sit here and figure out you know, your materials. And in Unity, you can always, of course, if you're a creator, you know this, you can sit there and you can play with rim lighting and matte caps and all kinds of really great stuff. I like that fold there, but I also don't like that fold there. I don't, go away. I don't know where it came from, but that's okay. So yeah, that's how you you make clothing, and it's just kind of a rinse and repeat. You take your plane, you will most likely mirror it, and then you'll just kind of start building it out. Use your subdivision surface to you know, make it lower poly, and then from there you can start sculpting. This shirt is pretty low poly for a shirt. I've said it multiple times. I'm just gonna keep kind of stressing it. You can always go higher poly. You can always sculpt and add a ton of folds, and you can bake if you want to. You can not bake. I suggest looking into Substance Painter if you want to do super cool texturing and like give it height and normal maps, which is going to give it like an actual like fabric texture. If you want, you could leave it low poly like this, and you could leave like basic materials like it don't look bad. So yeah, that's how I make shirts. That's how I make clothing. Pretty much most clothing is done with planes, in my opinion. Accessories like, you know, garters, harnesses. I have a different tutorial up on that. You don't have to use planes. You can absolutely use planes for stuff like that. But for actual like clothing pieces, I think planes is best. And then for accessories, depending on what you're making, you can still use your curves and your paths if you want. Just keep in mind your clipping. So like if you want to do like a little, you know, cutout or something, make sure to turn off clipping so that you can make sure to make that hole there. And sculpting will be your friend. Now, if you wanted to sell this rigged and weight painted, I'm not entirely sure about the rigging. I would reach out to the creator of the base first to ask if it's okay to use their armature. That's what it seems like people do, but I'm not entirely sure. But you don't have to sell it rigged and weight painted. I have a tutorial up on my YouTube of how to attach accessories that are not rigged. And essentially what they'll do is they'll, you know, assign this to the armature, and then you can go in and do a data transfer, wherever it is there. And you would like shift select. I have a full tutorial up on it if you want to go watch it, but you basically like do the data transfer from the body to the t-shirt so that the t-shirt is going to copy all the weight painting from the body to the shirt, so that you don't have to do that, or your customers won't have to do that. They might just have to do a little bit of touch up. So yeah, that's how you make clothing. That's how I make clothing, at least. Pretty simple. It's a little time consuming. Just kind of build out your base. Start low poly and then go from there. Make it higher and so on and so forth. In the future, I hope to learn substance painting a little bit better so that I can show you guys more about texturing. But right now, I just don't know enough to tell you guys how to texture it properly. If you want any advice from me about substance painting from what little tiny bit that I have learned, smart materials are your best friend. I unwrap it before Blender or in Blender before I put it in Substance Painter. It does have an auto unwrap feature. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it works for me. So just kind of for example, because I probably will try to learn this. I'm going to come here. I turned off my thing. I'm going to select all. Hello. Select all. UV, and I do a smart UV project. It is not a clean UV though. I can't stress that enough. Professional people that do this like all the time will look at this and be like, that is depressing. That's when like marking seams and stuff comes into place, which is this little thing, and you would like highlight. I mean, it's not going to do it now because I did unwrap it horribly, but you could like go through and like highlight. I don't remember how it works, but so you would put maybe one like down the shoulder lines and under so that you kind of cut the shirt in half, and then you would unwrap that. I would definitely suggest looking up some other YouTube tutorials about texturing and how to UV map properly, and maybe some substance painter tutorials. I hope in the future to be able to put one up on my own channel for you guys. Right now I just don't know enough about it. But I unwrap it and then or I'll let Substance Painter auto unwrap it, and then I'll throw in a smart material. And those are pretty helpful. They're pretty cool. It'll do a lot of the stuff for you. It's just not as clean or detailed as it could be. So I definitely would recommend looking into it. It's a really cool program for texturing. It makes your shirts and stuff look so much better, because the geometry, the wireframe for a piece of clothing for VRCHAT can be simple looking, but they have really, really cool texture on it, and that's going to be where the wow factor comes in with like emission maps, normal maps. You could draw, like buttons on it if you wanted to or something, or buckles or straps. Like you could do all kinds of stuff. So I definitely recommend that. But for now, I believe that would be the end of this tutorial. Just a quick little how I make clothing. If I learn anything new in the future that's going to make things easier or better for you guys, I will make sure to update this. But for now, that's all the tips and tricks that I know. As always, if you have any recommendations or anything that you would like to see a specific tutorial on, please do let me know down in the comments below, or you can join my Discord server and put it in the YouTube tutorial request channel. I also ping my server every time I have a new tutorial up, as well as, of course, for when the assets are released and things like that. If you would like to join, we would love to have you there. Other than that, I will do my best to get back on track with posting weekly. I apologize that I've been gone for a while. I had quite a few commissions and avatars and assets and stuff that we're releasing, and things just got kind of busy. So I'll do my best to be back next week with another tutorial. I will try to keep it on Tuesdays, but considering today is Friday, I can't promise tutorial Tuesdays anymore, but I will try my best to post weekly at least for you guys. And if you have something that you would like to see, the recommendations would help a lot, because I would prefer to make tutorials that you guys request than make random things that I come up with, because I want to be able to make content specifically for you. Anyways, I'm rambling. I apologize. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it helped. If you have any questions, let me know down below. If it's a really complex question, I would suggest joining the server. It's okay if you leave after, but ask the question there, because YouTube comments are not my favorite place to explain things in great detail, because there is like character limit and stuff. But of course, like if it's like a quick little question like, hey, what button did you push? Or hey, this thing's not working. What am I doing wrong? Like, I'll try my best to help you. But if it's like a really massive question, it might be better that we head over to Discord. Always more than happy to help you guys. That's definitely not what I'm getting at. I would prefer to help you guys. I just want to make sure that I can help you as proficiently as possible. I'm sorry I'm rambling. I'm going to go ahead and end the video now. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you next week.